There is a mad dash happening in Redmond right now at Microsoft headquarters. A new AI tool created by Anthropic is detecting flaws in Microsoft software faster than the company's engineers can fix them. That's according to new reporting from ProPublica. The tool is called Mythos, and it's reportedly exposing a record number of vulnerabilities in Microsoft software and raising major questions about the security of the wider U.S. tech industry and products consumers rely on daily. Renee Dudley covers technology, cybersecurity, and business for ProPublica, and she's been reporting on this. Thank you very much for being here, Renee.
I'm very pleased to be here. Thanks for having me.
So you report that Anthropic provided a preview of this super powerful AI tool, Mythos, to Microsoft and other organizations like governments, quote, with the goal to harden critical services before publicly available AI models can catch up. So set the scene for us. I mean, what happened when Microsoft set Mythos loose to look for software bugs that hackers could exploit?
This is a project that Anthropic launched in the spring called Project Glasswing. And the concept was they've got this cutting edge AI model called Mythos Claude Preview. And they found that this Mythos was uncovering bugs at this unprecedented clip, better than any other AI model to date has been able to do. And when you think about it, that's a great thing if you are a defender, because you could use this tool to scan your code if you're a software maker like Microsoft and find the bugs that are the weaknesses that hackers might want to exploit. Now, there's a flip side to that, which is when hackers have access to those same types of tools, they're going to take the opposite approach. They're going to use it not to plug the holes, but to exploit them. So you've got two sides with eventually using the same types of tools, but for opposite objectives. So when Anthropic realized we've got this extremely hot thing on our hands, they started this Project Glasswing to harden the software that we collectively rely on to live our lives every day before those same types of tools became publicly available and fell into the hands of hackers or were developed by our cyber adversaries like China. And it is generally thought, and national security experts have come out and said that our enemies are a few months behind us in terms of developing these kinds of technologies. But I obtained these internal Microsoft documents and watched a recording of a meeting that suggested that day of cyber reckoning may already be upon us. They suggested that there was this May 31st timeframe where they thought that publicly available tools may be available. And they, as they put it, were in this mad dash to plug as many holes as they could before that happened.
Yeah, and obviously that May 31st deadline is passed, and the work continues at Microsoft to plug those holes. Your story mentions that in April alone, Mythos uncovered 90 critical bugs and 141 important ones in SharePoint, Microsoft's cloud-based file sharing program. But there were issues indicated in your reporting, with Copilot, Microsoft 365, the Teams platform, all kinds of different services and software that people use. Just give me a sense of the scale of the number of, for example, patches that Microsoft is having to release now since Mythos was employed to kind of find these bugs.
It's been absolutely off the charts, Libby. It's at a clip that has surprised close watchers of this space. And so we can see this both in what Microsoft is saying externally and in what I have reported on for ProPublica from the inside scene. So externally, I'm sure your listeners will be familiar with Patch Tuesday, which is Microsoft's monthly release of security patches that users need to apply to plug these kinds of weaknesses that hackers could exploit. And for the past 2 months, both their June and their June release had set a record high. And then July far eclipsed that in what industry watchers called the bug apocalypse. It was just unlike anything that they had seen. So there have been these external signs, but the internal documents in the presentation that I viewed really underscore the depth and the scope of what they're dealing with. So, for example, for SharePoint, the documents say that they've got so many what they call critical bugs, which are the most devastating, the kind of bugs that, if unpatched, could allow worms to proliferate, which could lead to system crashes and outages and, all kinds of bad things. There were so many critical bugs that they were going to be working on the critical bugs through the summer before even moving on to the next level down, which is important bugs, which are bugs that could lead to system disruption, data loss. I mean, still very serious stuff. And then from there, sometime after all of that was cleared, moving into the end of the year, they were going to start working on the next tier down, which is moderate. They didn't, in the documents that I reviewed and the presentation that I watched, they didn't even mention low severity vulnerabilities. It's very much like an emergency room triage situation. Microsoft, as is typical in the industry, uses a vulnerability triage system where they tackle the most serious vulnerabilities first. But as we reported in ProPublica, that system itself is sort of being debated in this new AI bug finding era that we're in.
And that's because the less important or, less critically urgent bugs, they can kind of be chained together, right? Like they can become more serious and more effective for hackers, potentially. So it's not just the critical bugs that need to be addressed here.
You're exactly right. That's precisely it. So Mythos has the ability to chain together these lower level bugs where they all build on each other. And it's not this low level situation anymore. They get chained and built up. And then, suddenly you're dealing with something that is very similar to what could happen, the consequence of a important or critical vulnerability. And so the experts that I talked to, who include national authorities on artificial intelligence, say it's time to rethink the entire cyber, vulnerability triage approach.
Wow.
And, the patients are coming fast and furious, and the metaphorical emergency room needs more doctors and nurses, more people to triage these bugs that these AI tools, especially Mythos, are uncovering.
What did Microsoft say about their approach here and about the race to fix these bugs that could create these massive vulnerabilities for hackers?
They fully acknowledge the challenge. They stand by their current approach. They say that chaining this ability of Mythos to chain together lower level vulnerabilities has always been a part of their of the dynamic when they're working on triage, and that they're going to keep on doing what they're doing.
I'm speaking with Renee Dudley, reporter at ProPublica, about Microsoft's race to fix vulnerabilities in its software that have been uncovered at a record pace by a new super powerful AI tool from Anthropic called Mythos. Microsoft got access to a preview of this tool in order to try to harden these targets from potentially nefarious hackers. Renee, you report that Microsoft, because of its age, does have legacy code that makes it maybe more vulnerable than some newer companies. But this is not just a problem for Microsoft. I mean, this is a problem for the entire tech industry, right? I mean, what does your window into Microsoft tell you about the power of these new AI tools and what they could potentially mean for security for the products that we use every day?
Oh, yes, you're absolutely right. This is not a Microsoft problem alone. This is an industry problem, and this is a problem in open source software as well. these new tools like Mythos are just picking out bugs that have probably been in these systems for years and that humans have just not uncovered. And there are so many of them that it's the kind of thing where the industry is grappling with how to respond because the technology to find the bugs is far ahead of the technology to fix the bugs. You don't see AI being used to patch bugs in the way that it's currently being used to uncover them. So you've got this lopsided situation where they're surfacing, and the humans can't keep up, right? And you're right to point out that Microsoft is in a unique situation here because it's a 50-year-old company. Some of the code that they the software that we all use is sitting on was developed decades ago, and as one of my sources put it, the legacy code contributes to technical debt, and that debt is coming due. It's been pushed down the road, the proverbial road, and now the industry and especially Microsoft has to confront that debt.
Because dealing with that debt, patching these vulnerabilities, it's not a profit driver for Microsoft or other companies. It's a cost center. And so in order to, put resources behind it, you kind of have to be extremely forward thinking. And as you say, it's a debt that has mounted and is now coming due. Renee Dudley with ProPublica, really appreciate your reporting. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to Soundside. Don't forget you can listen live on KUOW 94.9 FM Seattle at noon and 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, or anytime online at KUOW.org or on your favorite podcast app.